Good morning, I'm Kalee Christian.
And I'm Kendyl Burnette with Wildcats Media.
And LC has just been a part of history in the making.
That's right, we're here in Granbury Conference Center where presidential candidate Newt Gingrich just made an appearance.
He talked about several issues from the economy to First Amendment rights to gas and oil production. Here's a look at what he had to say.
We really appreciate Louisiana College offering this opportunity to talk about liberty and to talk about key issues in American life. I can't imagine a more appropriate place to talk about what I think a fundamental threat the Obama ideology is to this country. The Obama administration last week, finally getting frightened over the price of gasoline, asked the Saudis to increase their oil production. Now, this is strategically destructive on the grand scale. First of all, if you want increased oil production, wouldn't it be a lot better to have it in Louisiana, where it created Louisiana jobs? Differently. Lincoln said one time, you can never win a debate with a man who won't concede that 2 + 2 = 4 because facts will make no difference. And so you can't win. Now, I'm going to give you a couple quick examples in terms of the Obama administration. The Obamacare attack on religious liberty in its war against right-to-life beliefs is an absolute, total violation of the First Amendment to the Constitution.
As an educator, there's been a big firestorm over education, specifically coming out of No Child Left Behind with value-added assessment, and we've been fighting that in Louisiana over the past several weeks. I wanted to know, while the economy is important, I mean, certainly we all are affected by the economy and homeland security. What are your plans for education as far as No Child Left Behind and your policy?
I think No Child Left Behind has been a disaster. I think it leads to a national curriculum, which will be written by the liberals. I think that it leads to teaching to the test, and I think it bureaucratizes education even more than it already is. I would like to shrink the Department of Education very dramatically back to being research only. I'd like to send all the powers back to the states and have the 50 states deal with it. I would take most of that power out of Baton Rouge, and I'd get it back down to the parishes and local school boards. I think the more you can get parents, teachers, and students to work together, and the more you can recenter power at that level, the better off you are. Teaching at its best is a missionary vocation. You cannot bureaucratize it. When you do, you kill the very spirit of learning. This is one of those, interesting left-wing ideas which works theoretically as long as it's not real. And then you put in $500 million and you go, oh, that didn't quite work. The president complains about the oil industry getting a tax break. The amount of money he wastes on wacky ideas dwarfs the oil industry. And things like Solyndra, they just throw the money away because they're not practical. I cannot get you to go and buy $45 a gallon algae gas. So we're doing a little poster. And over here it has Obama as President Algae. And it says $10 a gallon. Over here is Newt as President Drilling, and it's $2.50 a gallon. And we say, you choose. And we have a drilling rig, and we have a bottle of algae. And we say, you choose. But just, I'm thinking about getting volunteers this summer to go to gas stations and walk up to people with a bottle of algae and ask them if they'd like an Obama tank of gas. This is the kind of stuff. But here's what made it really intellectually fascinating. It's worth studying by your classes. On this page, he's talking about drilling is not the answer. Literally 2 pages later, he's talking about the breakthroughs in natural gas. And he's correct, they're huge breakthroughs. But here's the question. How have we discovered all the natural gas the president's talking about? Anyone want to guess? Drilling. So here he says drilling doesn't really work except when it works. And that's why he's wrong. The president decided he had to attack my policy of getting to $2.50 a gallon gasoline and having an American energy plan. And my plan is very simple. I believe we have to be the #1 producer of oil in the world because I want to make sure that no future president ever again bows to a Saudi king. Now,
And we're here with Coy Rayford, just seeing how he felt about Mr. Gingrich's speech. What were your feelings about his stand on national debt?
I think national debt is one of the biggest concerns our generation has because our children and our grandchildren will be affected by it. He had a pretty good stance on it because he talked about a lot of jobs in America coming in, which is going to produce revenue, which will take care of our national debt. He also thinks that the American government should focus on the American government, and money should be coming to the American government, not money going out of American government. So I agree with him completely on his stance on national debt and how to get out of national debt.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Coy.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to pose this question to serve also as an instructive moment for President Obama. Louisiana College for 106 years has been based on biblical truth. We're a religious organization. We've been told recently that we must throw away a basic tenet of our institutional belief, which is the sixth commandment, thou shalt not murder. We know that President Obama does support the murder of the unborn. We do not. We serve at the altar of life, not the altar of death. We have filed suit against Obamacare in order to draw a line in the sand that our First Amendment right as a religious institution has been not threatened but violated. We will close the institution before we will support abortifacients and abortion-causing procedures as mandated by President Obama. What is your position regarding an institution like ours that's built on religious freedom and truth, who is unwilling to have a president who supports that murderous position to try to influence our religious beliefs?
Well, I think you put your finger on the greatest long-term threat to this country. We were based on religious liberty. We're based on our rights coming from our Creator. We're based on those rights being unalienable. What Obama stands for is a radical revision of America, in which we become a secular European socialist country, in which the government dictates everything. The key to the movie that Cliss and I did on Pope John Paul II was his teaching that no government could come between God and man. And the Polish people rose up and for 10 years fought the dictatorship. And I remind people regularly, this was a dictatorship which was so anti-religious that it would not allow school prayer. Now imagine a government that was so anti-religious it would not allow school prayer. We look at the Polish communist dictatorship, and then we look at modern American judges, many of whom are anti-religious bigots. And they seek to impose on the rest of us their value system. And Obama is simply the personification of a trend that's been here for 50 years. And I think this is why, as Callisto said earlier in introducing me, this is the most important election of our lifetime. If now that we know how radical he is, and now that we know how incompetent he is, and now that we know that he's given us the worst economy since the Great Depression, he's given us the highest gasoline prices in history, he's built up trillions and trillions of dollars of deficit for our children and grandchildren, if he can get reelected with all of that, you can't imagine how radical his second term will be. And these are people who in the end are opposed to us living our religion. They don't mind if we worship 1 hour a week. They just don't want us to believe it. And if we believe it and we try to live it out, we are their mortal enemies. And that's just a fact. This is also the president who voted for legalizing infanticide as a state senator in a very specific case in Illinois. And said that the abortion doctor, if they had to then kill the baby after the baby was born, if the baby survived the abortion, the doctor had no risk if the doctor then killed the baby. Well, that's just plain out infanticide. And it just gives you a sense of how radical Obama's personal views are on these issues. And he's surrounded by people who are equally radical. And I think every religious institution in America that feels imperiled has to say to everybody that is associated with that institution, your alumni, your students, your faculty, everybody, that the election this fall is life and death for religious liberty in America. And I think it's just that clear. Thank you all very, very much.
As you can see, his speech was very enlightening to the core claims of his campaign.
That's right, and hopefully it'll be the first of many speeches given on this campus.
For Wildcats Media, I'm Kalee Christian.
And I'm Kendyl Burnette.